Hello, everyone. This is Vicki. I see a few familiar faces out here. We're going to be starting in just a couple of minutes. We still have a few people joining. So I have unmuted your phones. And if you want to stay muted, you can self-mute. But this way, if you have questions, that way you can go ahead and pose questions as we go along, and I would be happy to answer them. But again, we'll be starting in just a couple of minutes.
Excuse me.
All right, if you're just joining, we're going to be starting in just a minute or two. We still have a few people who look like they're signing on. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Actually, I think I know many of you. My name is Vicki Dillon. I'm one of the CRM implementation consultants here at WorkWise. And today we're going to be going through our email designer. At least half of you on the call have used it already, and we have few enough people that I've opened up the microphones. So unless you have background noise or prefer to be muted, that way if you have questions or anything like that that you want me to go through as we move along, feel free to go ahead and make your comments or questions. If you prefer to be muted in the toolbox area of the meeting, there's an option to raise your hand, and I will watch for that as we progress throughout the meeting. So if you have a question, you can raise your hand and I'll approach it that way. So good enough. So we have a couple of people who've been using this product for some time. I see Debbie's out here. Glenn's begun to use it. Hallie is pretty new, but starting to use these things. So you guys might be getting a little bit of a review here, but hopefully you'll gain something from this as well. Yeah. So I'm sharing my screen right now. Hopefully everybody can see it. Hallie, you're not muted, so I'm going to call on you. Can you see my screen?
Vicki, I can see it.
Oh, thank you, Glenn. I was going to call on you next. Excellent. So before, this is just the main screen and OnContact. And before I get too far into this, I also want to share with you some materials that are available on our on our website resource page. This document, if you prefer me to email this to you, I can certainly do that, contains just best practices about how to construct your emails to get good results, to avoid being fined for sending spam, how to design your emails most effectively, and how to use our building blocks. So it's about 14 or 15 pages worth of really good information. So if any of you would like to have this, you can either send me an email and I'll be happy to share with you, or you'll be able to find it on our website. They're posting an updated version later today. So just so you know that that's there, and hopefully that eliminates some of the need to take some notes on some of this. There's also on our website many videos and training tutorials available as well. What we're going to do is move from our workspace area here into the marketing area where we can find all of our options for designing emails. So here on the left, I'm going to go under email marketing. And the main area we're concerned with today is this email template area. So when I click on that, a new tab is going to open up. And it's going to give me a couple options. It's first of all listing all of the email templates that I've created. And bear with me, it's a test system, so there's a lot of people in here, and there's some really funny looking emails in my test system. But these are all of my emails. And I can click down through my templates here if I want to select something I've created previously to work on and further edit. And I get a little, whenever I click on one of these, I get a little preview over here and the option to open it up to edit it. So let's take a look at something that's already been created. I'll just open this one just to show you how the email designer works, kind of the basic navigation of it. Then we're going to go ahead and create some new email templates. So when you open a template, you get this preview area here on the left. And this is a section that's built in various blocks. So as you move your cursor over the parts of your email, you're going to see this little blue menu come up every time you encounter another block. Each of these blocks are a little different. So this block is an image, you can tell. This block is a button. This block is a divider line. And if I scroll down, you can see we've got obviously some sort of a text block, and so forth. Okay, so this example has quite a few different kinds of blocks in the email. And that's important to keep in mind when you're designing an email. You want to take your design and really mentally, visually try to break it down into the various sections of what you're trying to create. Each of these blocks is constructed using this area over here. These are called HTML parts, or think of them like puzzle pieces or building blocks. And whenever you want to add anything from this side into your document, you simply select whatever it is that you would like. We'll do something simple like a spacer. Click on the piece that you want, drag it into your document wherever you want it to land. And when you do, you're now on the left in an edit mode. And here you can make changes to that block. When you're in edit mode, everything gets kind of grayed out except what you're working on. And on the right-hand side, you then are offered controls to make changes to whatever block it is that you've put in place. All right. And I'm going to cancel this piece because it's an ugly block. I'll just show you a different, let me edit this block up here. I'll try to keep it looking a little more attractive. And this currently is an image. And on the right now with our editing tools, I can see that this is an image that is in our image library. Here's the name of the image. some alternate text for it. And you can easily change or edit these images. You can change the size here if you want. You can switch this image to a different one by clicking on this little magnifying glass to look at the images in the library. These are all the images currently loaded in the image library. When you use the email designer, we provide you with several hundred stock photos that you're able to use. They're you don't have to pay any stock fees for them or anything like that. But if I want to select something from the image library, just click to select it, save my change, and I can very easily switch images. More often, I'll just go back here to that browse button. It may be the case that you, instead of using something from our library, would need to load something from your own library, your product images or your logos or something along those lines. If I browse down at the bottom, you can select any image you like. And I'm just going to pick one at random, so I'll pick a very nice horse. And there we go. Okay. So images really easy to select, whether they be from the library, something you upload, or if you choose to, you can even put the URL for an image. The biggest difference between these two is if you provide the URL to an image from perhaps somewhere on your website, when a user gets that email in their inbox, they don't have to click to open the image. It's just going to appear because all it is a link to that image on your website. What you lose there is tracking whether or not somebody's opened an email. You always want to make sure that if you're doing URLs, make sure that at least one image that in your email is one that comes from this library, whether it be one that you've uploaded or one from our stock image. That's the only way we have to detect whether or not somebody has opened an email, is to download one or more images. Does that make sense? Any questions on that piece of it that's kind of important? Okay. You also can, if you choose to, click on this little layout option. This lets you do things like put a border on your image in whatever width you like, or put padding, which essentially means spacing between this image, and either information to the top or to the side or to the bottom of your image. And once you're happy with your changes, we save them. Okay. And then you can move on to continue editing. So that's an image. Let's look at something like this, an example like a button. Button, I'm going to click to edit. When you are setting up any kind of hyperlink, whether it's a button or something else, you really get two choices. You can either do what we call a workflow, which means we can track various kinds of things, most commonly whether or not somebody has clicked on that link. So to set that up, this one's already set that way. There are many different workflows. Lots and lots of these are used elsewhere in the system. Almost always what you're going to care about is this click-through. Same thing with this logging an event. When they click on that button, we can log events which are used to trigger other things in the system, or used for other ways to track. And in most cases, if you're calling the click-through workflow up here, you're also going to log a click-through event. Here on the button text, we can say, whatever you want to say as far as the text goes. And then finally here, you need to put the URL. Where will they land when they click on this button? So you're simply going to provide the correct page that you want them to land on when they click it. All right. So all these things have to be in place in order to properly track a click-through. And if I click Save, that's going to be all set. Now the other choice, which is less common, I'm just going to go back in here to the edit, is instead of a workflow, to provide a URL. The biggest difference is here, all you're doing is providing a URL, a web page to land on. And in this case, we do no tracking whatsoever. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and save that. Any questions on these two? Oh, Hallie, did you have a question? It looked like your little hand was up, Hallie. If you've got a question, just holler it out. Otherwise, I'll keep going here. So as I scroll down here, there's a few more examples of images and so forth. I'm going to get rid of some of these just because try to clean this up and show you. So here you see something called a content block. And over here on the right, you see all these little HTML parts that are columns, basically, that you can place in here. So these are used to build something more complicated, like these three images moving across from one another. If you want to have something like this going on, take one of these little column placeholders, and I'm going to just drag one down here at the bottom. And let me scroll back down to that. So now what I've got are three what we call content blocks, but there is nothing in them. They're just frames. And I can do anything I want with them. Let's say I want text over here on the left. Perhaps I want an image in the middle, and maybe more text over here on the right. So content can be dragged into any of these placeholders. So I'm going to start with a text block over here, and I'll drag that over here and drop it right into my first content box. All right. And it kind of stretched out a little bit here, but you can see that some sample text has now been inserted in there. You can replace that text with whatever you would like. And you'll see that there are formatting tools right above, and they're like any other formatting tools you're used to using today. So I'm just going to make this. And we'll save the changes here. And if I scroll back down to that area, there's my text. Here I'm going to put an image. So I'm going to drag an image from over on this right-hand side here and drop it into my placeholder. I'm going to take an image from the library. Here I am when I was in second grade. Okay. And we'll say that's how we want it. Okay, and then I can drop more text here on the right. Okay, each of these blocks can be resized. The images can be resized, so you can play with things like whether or not you want the content to be centered. Here we have in pixels how wide it is. So if we want to change that, we can just alter pixels. Just a tip for you that a standard email size from side to side, from left point to right point, is 600 pixels wide. So when you are doing things like this, bringing in 3 images side by side, if you want them all to be equal, you want them to be 200 pixels apiece so that we get the total of 600 across. And if you're resizing an image like this one, and you want it to occupy a larger portion of the screen, if you did something like 200 pixels wide, it would be this wide and a little bit taller because this is a rectangle shape. So just kind of, you can ballpark things a little bit if you know the dimensions you're working with. It is best, so just a tip for you too, that if you do need to resize an image, even though here, when we're in edit mode, we give you an option here to change the the height or the width. So I could say something like that. You can modify if I wanted to make this, let's say, 250 wide. Oops. So notice it did resize that image. However, you're going to get the best results if you first put the image into the correct size using Photoshop or whatever graphic image tool you're utilizing to make these changes. The tool within any of these email designers is just it'll get you in the ballpark, but not necessarily optimize the results. So, questions on any of this so far? Okay, so I'm going to move down here a little bit. One of the things that is required in order for you not to violate the anti-spam laws, which are pretty serious, even though it doesn't seem like folks get prosecuted for it. Should you be prosecuted, the fine is something in the neighborhood of $10,000 to $11,000 per email. One requirement in order for you to comply with the law is to include always an unsubscribe. And we give that to you in the footer block that we provide here, both of these. So I'm just going to delete this one and re-add it so you can see what it looks like. So just as a best practice, always put in a footer. It doesn't have to be hours, but you really, really want to do that. So the footer block looks like this. And you can make changes to it, but we include merge fields. These fields are encircled by these dots. So the email that we are sending to is going to be merged into this field. Your company name is going to be merged into this field. And your unsubscribe link and so forth. All of these merge fields are coming from a default screen that you need to set up if you haven't already, called My Company Settings. I can help you get that set up. If you don't know if it's set up, I'd be happy to help you with that. Or it's also in that document that I mentioned at the start of the call. These fields are not going to be merged in this view. You're just going to see the name of the field. But when this email is sent out, you're going to see it populated with the data from your company settings screen. So you shouldn't have to do anything to these if that screen has been filled out properly. But you can change it. So for example, if you don't have a support team, you can simply get rid of that line. Or if you want to reword anything you see in here, you certainly can. The key thing is just make sure you have an unsubscribe. The other portion of the anti-spam law includes that you have to include your company and location information. So that's why we have your name, city, state, and phone. So I'm going to save that. Okay. And then I'm going to scroll up to the top, because one of the things that you can do with OnContact, you could put in a header and a logo. Again, we see one of these merge fields, so your company name would pop in here. This image you could simply replace with your own image, your logo from your company, by switching this out and from the library and putting in the uploading your logo. All right. But if you want to personalize things, let me put a text block in here. You would put in your text like normal. But when you want to insert a merge field, you're going to place your cursor, like I've done, where you want this merge field to go. So in my example, I would like the first name of my contact to appear in this spot. So over here, I've got my cursor positioned right on the right-hand side. I have two tabs. I have Layout and I have Insert. I'm going to click Insert, and then I get an option to choose what it is I'd like to put in here. So I get a lot of options. Most of them are fields, but it also includes options for things like an image or a hyperlink if you want. But I'm going to choose a field from the contact record. And then in this drop-down, I'm going to select the field that I want. And you'll notice there's a lot I could merge in. But commonly, first name is one that most people want somewhere. So notice I've got my merge field now over here. If I want to make that name followed by a comma and punctuate it properly, I simply type a comma where I want it. Right? And then if I click over here back on Layout, I can save my change. Right. Any questions so far or comments? Some of you who've used this before, anybody have questions or? Okay. So once you've got all your pieces in place, you get a couple of additional options. So we're on a tab called Document. If I click on Preview, I get to view this email in many different formats. So first, how is it going to look if somebody opens it on a desktop computer? And I can review it to make sure it's laid out the way I want. I can see how it's going to look if they open it on a mobile device. And OnContact will optimize your email for a mobile device as best it can. Okay, so notice how my images, instead of 3 across, are now one on top of the other. And we also offer plain text. Now, most people are not going to view it in plain text, but this helps us get in the email in past servers that are going to strip it if it's in HTML. Finally, there's a view of the HTML code itself. And if you scroll down, I'm not an HTML code person by any means, but if you are, you can actually modify that HTML on this tab if you choose to do that, or copy and paste it wherever you might want to go. Okay. So that's opening an existing email and just looking at the pieces and tweaking it. But if you want to create a brand new one, let's kind of back up here. So if I wanted to create a brand new template, when my list of existing templates opens up here, I have some options here. One is to create a brand new email template. And down at the bottom of this card, you're given an option to select from a number of existing layouts. So often you may find a layout similar to what you're hoping to achieve already kind of started for you. And I just want to point out this is also a good way for you to learn how to construct something maybe a little more complicated or advanced. So I'm just gonna, and I'm picking this template on purpose because this has this whole section right here. Like it almost is a mini web page, right? Where you've got tabs that they can click to. We have that block over here to build it, but this would let you see a good example of how you might put something like this together. And this is a really good way when you're trying to get people either out on your website or you've got an awful lot of content to share. It's an easy way to put it in a nice, concise email format. Each one of these different sections, notice, are a click-through, where we are bringing that, in this case, the home page is going to bring them right to this area. If we go to this one, they're going to the products page. Here we're going to the blog page, and so forth. All right. If I go back to my email templates and choose to create a new one, one of the other options you get is to do from a blank template right here. This is really useful if you have, if you either just want to start from scratch, that's great. But in some cases, many of you are working with some sort of a marketing firm that has created that email template for you. And if that's the case, what they're frequently giving you is the HTML code. You can, if they have constructed that, their email to be linked to images rather than hard-coded and linked to an image, you can copy and paste that HTML right into this tab here, and your document can be kind of self-generated. But the key there is it's going to look funny if they have not used URLs for those images within the design that they've created. But just like the other templates, this is simply a blank. So to begin building, you're going to drag your pieces into place and start editing. Any questions on that so far? Okay. So that's pretty much the email designer itself, but a couple other things you should probably be aware of over here on the left. One is this HTML parts area. Again, these are all of these different options over here on the right, and we give you a whole bunch of them. However, you can, if you want, create your own. So if I click over here on HTML parts, I'm just going to switch this view here. So you can see here are all the parts that we were just looking at on the right-hand side of the page. So now, for example, let's say this header, logo, and name one. If you want to create one that can be used with your image and information, your logo, it's very easy to simply open up this part. I'll wait till it loads here. So this is the one you might recall we just looked at, where we have a logo and a company name. If I go up here to this options area and do a save as, give it a new name. And now I've just created this new part, and I can modify it however I want. So I'm going to switch this logo, and I'll pretend this is my company logo. All right. And it's going to default to my company name. I can resize this logo because it looks awful big. Oops, I don't know if I grabbed it there. I didn't grab it quite. So you can see it's 512 wide. We're going to make it 100 wide. It's a little more like it. And I'm going to save that. So once you've created a part like I've just done here, this test header, what will happen is now if I go create a new template or go to edit an existing one, I'll just edit an existing one just to show you. Now on the right-hand side, you can see here's my new block, and it's very easy for me to grab that and pop it in my email up here. Oops, I forgot to save my block. Right. Any questions on the HTML parts? You guys are quiet. The final area I want to show you is this web image area. These are all the images that are either given to you out of the box in your image library, as well as all the images that you've uploaded into the image library. If you click on any one of these, you'll see some details on the right-hand side for each one of those images, or you can switch that view to look at things in columns and rows. So if you're trying to find something at a glance, that's a couple of ways that you can do it. You can also upload into this library right from here if you want to add a new image to the library. So this is another place to do it. And you don't have to be inside of an email template to do it from here. You just click to add a new image, and you can select whatever image you would like. And I guess I already uploaded that one. That also allows you to select multiple images, by the way, which you cannot do from within an email template itself. Okay. So that's a little on designing them. I just want to do a quick review on how to go about sending one. First of all, you should always send a test email once you've done a design. I like to do that by adding myself as a contact in the database and sending it as if I were truly sending out a mass email. I think that, personally, I think that's the best test. So I'm going to go ahead and look up my contact record. And I can do it actually right from here, or I can open the record. And to send a test to myself, I'm going to click on this options button up at the top, choose email merge. On this first screen, I'm going to select what template. I'm just picking one at random at the moment for a test. For my test, I'm not going to bother creating an activity record. I can put in the subject, And then on Review and Send, you get the option again to view how this is going to look on a desktop versus a mobile device or in plain text. And provided you're satisfied with the way everything looks, we can send that email out. So, and let's see if there's my test email. Okay. Now I'm going to download the images like I normally would. Okay. And now I can check it for, appearances. I could do checking the various links that are in here on my merge fields to make sure everything looks correct. One of the things you can do when you do test it, click on I don't know if I have any links in here. I guess we have some social media links. If you click on one or more links, that's going to show up in your statistics in your marketing dashboard. And that's kind of the last thing we're going to cover. So when you do send out a mass email, all of your statistics are going to be displayed here on this marketing dashboard. I'll just refresh that. Oh, and actually, because I didn't have that connected to a campaign, but I'm not going to see it. But the statistics when you do send out an email show up here in this email panel. So you'll be able to see the date for your various mass emails, and when you click on that, you're going to be able to see who the email was sent to, all the various people, and of those people who opened it or who clicked through it, that kind of thing. Okay. So that's kind of the major things I wanted to cover today. So there's time for questions. If anyone has any questions or comments, I'd be happy to take those. And I'm unmuting a few of you that look like you were muted by this phone here. So any questions from anyone? Okay. Well, I appreciate everyone attending this afternoon. If you do have questions, feel free to shoot me an email or take a look out on our website. You'll find those resources that I mentioned here. So if you go to workwisellc.com, it's under the software resources area, the CRM resources area. And it'll be here in this section on working with email, and you'll find additional information in the marketing section. So these two sections are where you're going to see it. Okay. So thanks everyone for attending. I hope you have a great rest of the day. We'll see you one way or another soon.
Thanks, Vicki.
Thanks, Glenn. Right. Bye, everyone.